Some breaking news from the United States for you now. A powerful earthquake has been detected off the coast of California.
Today in the Bay, minor earthquake shaking San Francisco and parts of the Bay Area this morning.
The USGS says a preliminary 3.7 magnitude earthquake.
2 earthquakes in 3 days. San Francisco has been rattled not once but twice. A huge worry, especially to the locals. There must be something going on beneath their feet, and it's not something to be put aside. What is happening in this side of the world? And what does it mean for the Bay Area? The twin quakes. A preliminary magnitude 3.7 earthquake hit off the San Francisco coast early Friday morning, as reported by the U.S. Geological Survey. In a surprising turn of events, the San Francisco Bay Area has recorded 2 earthquakes of the same magnitude, both occurring within a mere 72 hours. The most recent quake struck near Pleasant Hill, reaching a depth of 7 miles and registering a magnitude of 4. Residents spanning from San Francisco to Sacramento experienced the tremors, raising concerns. Are these seismic events a precursor to something larger? Could they be linked to deeper geological movements? Elon Musk recently offered an intriguing viewpoint, suggesting that these quakes might hold more significance than initially perceived. Join us as we delve into the details of the 2 earthquakes that rattled San Francisco and investigate the underlying causes. In the last 3 days, the Bay Area has been shaken, not by the usual tech controversies or housing discussions, but by the forces of nature. 2 earthquakes, both measuring 3.7 in magnitude, jolted the region, one on Friday and another on Sunday morning, serving as a reminder that Mother Nature can easily take center stage. Now, let's focus on the quake from Sunday. At 8:50 a.m., while many locals were enjoying their weekend coffee or going for a morning jog, the Earth decided to make its presence felt. The epicenter was located near Concord, California, at a depth of approximately 9 miles. Although classified as light shaking, the tremor was felt by people from San Francisco to Sacramento. From Concord to Vacaville and even parts of the Delta region, the quake certainly made an impact. What adds to the unsettling nature of the situation is that the event on Sunday came right after another earthquake on Friday, which also registered a magnitude of 3.7. The Friday quake hit near the Pacific Ocean, just off San Francisco's coast. This tremor was shallower, occurring at a depth of about 5 miles, and took place a few miles east of the San Francisco Zoo. Fortunately, both people and animals at the zoo were unharmed, and the zoo's earthquake response protocols were so effective that even the flamingos remained undisturbed. Curiously, Friday's quake was not a solitary event. It was soon followed by 2 smaller tremors that morning, measuring 3.0 and 2.5 in magnitude. While these smaller quakes didn't raise much concern, they certainly contributed to the excitement surrounding this unexpected series of seismic activity. Residents of San Francisco have become adept at adapting to surprises, whether they stem from innovative startups or the ever-shifting tectonic plates beneath them. The city's newly elected mayor, Daniel Lurie, quickly took action following Friday's quake. He reassured the community with a statement that highlighted safety as his foremost concern. "I promise to make the safety of San Franciscans my first priority as mayor," he declared. City officials and first responders promptly sprang into action, making sure that everyone was safe and secure, just as they had promised. When the earth trembles, a common inquiry comes out. Is this an isolated incident, or are we witnessing a trend? Patterned with history. Seismologists emphasize that although it's rare for 2 earthquakes of similar strength to strike in such proximity, it doesn't automatically suggest that something more alarming is on the horizon. The Bay Area is located over numerous fault lines, making minor quakes a regular occurrence. So, why the heightened concern over what specialists deem routine and anticipated? The explanation can be found in our historical context. Remember the 3,000 deaths. At 5:12 a.m. on April 18, 1906, San Francisco woke up to one of the most destructive earthquakes in U.S. history. In less than a minute, the city was shaken to its core, buildings collapsed, and chaos spread through the streets. But the real nightmare was just beginning. Massive fires broke out, turning San Francisco into a burning wasteland for the next 3 days. By the time it was over 3,000 people had died. 80% of the city was in ruins, and 225,000 people were homeless. This earthquake wasn't just a disaster, it was a wake-up call. It forced engineers, scientists, and city planners to rethink how cities should be built to survive such powerful forces. It also became a symbol of resilience, proving that even after a catastrophe, people can rebuild and come back stronger. The earthquake struck without warning. The San Andreas Fault suddenly ruptured, sending shockwaves nearly 300 miles across California. The shaking lasted just under a minute, but that was enough to rip apart buildings, roads, and entire neighborhoods. Back then, construction standards were nowhere near as advanced as they are today. Many of the buildings in San Francisco were made of unreinforced brick and wood, which couldn't handle the intense shaking. Skyscrapers swayed, streets cracked open, train tracks twisted, and entire blocks collapsed into rubble. The damage wasn't limited to San Francisco. Cities like San Jose and Santa Rosa also suffered heavy destruction. But the earthquake itself wasn't the only disaster. The real destruction came from the fires that followed, and then came the 3 days of hell. Shortly after the earthquake, fires started breaking out all over the city. Gas lines had ruptured, stoves were overturned, and sparks from broken electrical wires ignited massive flames. The problem? San Francisco's water system was also destroyed, so firefighters had almost no water to fight the flames. As the fires spread, desperate officials tried to stop them by dynamiting buildings, hoping to create fire breaks. But this only made things worse. The explosions often caused more fires instead of stopping them. For 3 days, firestorms tore through the city. Landmarks like City Hall, entire business districts, and thousands of homes were reduced to ash. People fled to places like Golden Gate Park, the Presidio, and the beaches, where they set up makeshift camps to escape the inferno. By the time the fires burned out, San Francisco was almost unrecognizable. The once thriving city had been reduced to piles of smoking rubble. When the fires finally died down, San Francisco was left in ruins. Over 225,000 people, more than half the city's population, were left homeless. They lived in tent camps, makeshift shelters, and whatever structures were still standing. The US Army set up relief stations, providing food, water, and medical aid. Despite the destruction, the people of San Francisco refused to give up. Almost immediately, rebuilding efforts began. Wealthy businessmen, government officials, and everyday citizens worked together to bring the city back to life. Within a few years, new buildings rose from the ashes, and San Francisco was thriving again. However, there was one major cover-up. City officials tried to downplay the earthquake itself and focused more on the fire damage. Why? They didn't want investors to think San Francisco was an unsafe place to do business. As a result, for decades, people blamed the fires more than the earthquake for the destruction. The 1906 earthquake was a turning point in earthquake science and engineering. Before the disaster, people didn't fully understand how dangerous the San Andreas Fault was. After the quake, scientists started studying it closely, leading to better earthquake prediction methods and early warning systems. Engineers also learned valuable lessons. San Francisco's new buildings were designed to be more earthquake-resistant, and modern construction techniques focused on stronger materials and flexible structures. The 1906 San Francisco earthquake was more than just a natural disaster. It was a defining moment in the city's history. In the face of destruction, San Franciscans proved their resilience, coming together to rebuild stronger and smarter. More than a century later, the scars of the disaster still remain in history books, museums, and the city's landscape. But one thing is clear: San Francisco learned from its past and is ready for the future, no matter what the earth throws its way. Before that was one quake too, less damaging, but has destroyed a lot of infrastructures. Loma Prieta earthquake. On October 17, 1989, at 5:04 p.m., just as people were heading home from work and baseball fans were settling in for Game 3 of the World Series, the ground suddenly shook. In a matter of seconds, the Loma Prieta earthquake rocked the San Francisco Bay Area, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Buildings collapsed, freeways crumbled, and the famous Bay Bridge partially collapsed. The quake lasted just 15 seconds, but the damage was unforgettable. With a magnitude of 6.9, it wasn't the biggest earthquake California had ever seen, but it was one of the most devastating in modern history. It caused 63 deaths, thousands of injuries, and billions of dollars in damage. More than anything, it served as a wake-up call that even a tech-savvy, modern city like San Francisco wasn't immune to nature's fury. One of the reasons this earthquake is so memorable is because it happened on live TV. The San Francisco Giants and the Oakland A's were about to start Game 3 of the 1989 World Series at Candlestick Park. Millions of fans were tuned in when suddenly the broadcast cut out. Inside the stadium, fans felt the ground rumble and saw the stadium lights shake. Some people thought it was just part of the excitement, until they realized the shaking wasn't stopping. The power went out, and for the first time in history, a World Series game was postponed due to an earthquake. Meanwhile, outside the stadium, the real disaster was unfolding. The worst destruction happened on freeways and bridges. The most infamous collapse was on the Cypress Street Viaduct in Oakland. This double-decker highway came crashing down, trapping dozens of cars and killing 42 people. Rescuers worked for hours, pulling people from the wreckage. Another terrifying sight was the partial collapse of the Bay Bridge, which connects San Francisco to Oakland. A 50-foot section of the upper deck fell onto the lower deck, instantly becoming one of the most iconic images of the disaster. Miraculously, only one person died on the bridge, but it highlighted a serious problem. Many of the Bay Area's major structures weren't built to withstand a big quake. In San Francisco's Marina District, things got even worse. The ground literally turned to liquid, a process called liquefaction, causing buildings to tilt, sink, or collapse. Fires broke out because of broken gas lines, adding another layer of destruction. Firefighters had to pump water from the bay just to put out the flames. Overall, the earthquake caused about $10 billion in damage and left thousands of people without homes. Despite the destruction, things could have been a lot worse. If the quake had hit just an hour later, when more people were on the roads, the death toll could have been much higher. The fact that it struck during the World Series actually saved lives, because many people had left work early to watch the game instead of sitting in rush hour traffic. After the earthquake, California took earthquake safety much more seriously. Engineers started retrofitting old buildings, making them stronger and more resistant to shaking. Bridges and freeways were redesigned to flex and absorb shock instead of collapsing. Emergency response systems also improved, ensuring that help would arrive faster in future disasters. The 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake was a reminder that California is always living on borrowed time when it comes to earthquakes. It was a terrifying moment for the Bay Area, but it also led to major safety improvements that have likely saved lives in later quakes. San Francisco and Oakland rebuilt, the Bay Bridge was reinforced, and the people who lived through it never forgot those 15 seconds of chaos. The next big quake will happen someday, but thanks to lessons learned from Loma Prieta, the Bay Area is more prepared than ever. And then, even before that, was the first strong and devastating earthquake in San Francisco. The Hayward earthquake. The 1868 Hayward earthquake was one of the most destructive seismic events in California's early history. Striking on October 21st, 1868, the quake had an estimated magnitude of 6.8 to 7.0 and originated along the Hayward Fault, which runs through the eastern side of the San Francisco Bay Area. The earthquake lasted for approximately 30 seconds but caused widespread damage, particularly in the towns of Hayward, San Leandro, and Oakland. Given the region's limited infrastructure at the time, the quake's impact was significant, leading to the collapse of buildings, destruction of roads, and disruption of local businesses. One of the primary reasons the 1868 Hayward earthquake was so devastating was the lack of earthquake-resistant construction. Many buildings in the affected areas were made of unreinforced masonry, which crumbled under the intense shaking. Reports from the time describe cracked walls, fallen chimneys, and homes that were completely destroyed. In San Leandro, the Alameda County Courthouse, a two-story brick building, collapsed entirely, highlighting the vulnerability of structures in the region. Oakland and San Francisco also experienced damage, with the latter reporting cracked buildings and broken windows. The human toll of the 1868 earthquake was tragic, with at least 30 people killed and many more injured. Most fatalities occurred in poorly built structures, and some victims were crushed by falling debris. However, Given the region's lower population density compared to today, the number of casualties was relatively limited. Many survivors were left homeless, and businesses suffered significant economic losses as they struggled to recover from the destruction. Despite the disaster, the 1868 Hayward earthquake served as a critical warning about the seismic hazards in the Bay Area. Scientists today recognize that the Hayward fault remains one of the most dangerous faults in California, with the potential for another major earthquake in the near future. The 1868 quake, once known as the Great San Francisco Earthquake before the infamous 1906 earthquake, remains a stark reminder of the region's ongoing seismic risks. Modern engineering advancements, building codes, and early warning systems have been developed to mitigate the impact of future earthquakes, but experts continue to stress the importance of preparedness for residents living near the Hayward fault zone. Lasting effects of the past to the present. From the 1906 earthquake, which nearly destroyed the city, to the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, past seismic events have had a profound and lasting impact on urban planning, emergency preparedness, and engineering standards. These past disasters serve as critical lessons in the present day, as recent earthquakes in the region continue to highlight the persistent threat of major seismic activity along the San Andreas and Hayward faults. The 1906 San Francisco earthquake, with an estimated magnitude of 7.8, remains one of the most destructive natural disasters in U.S. history. It resulted in widespread devastation, fires that burned for days, and the displacement of hundreds of thousands of residents. In response, modern San Francisco has implemented strict building codes, emergency response plans, and improved structural reinforcements for bridges, skyscrapers, and historic buildings. Similarly, the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, which struck during the World Series, caused significant damage to highways, bridges, and older structures, leading to further advances in seismic retrofitting and stricter engineering standards for future construction projects. The effects of these past earthquakes are still visible today. Older buildings that were damaged in previous quakes have since been reinforced or replaced with more resilient structures. The Bay Bridge, which partially collapsed in 1989, was completely rebuilt to withstand future quakes. Additionally, city planners and engineers have worked to earthquake-proof modern high-rises, ensuring they can withstand the violent shaking that comes with a major tremor. Public transportation infrastructure, including BART and Muni, has also been reinforced to minimize service disruptions during seismic events. The connection between past and recent earthquakes is evident in the way modern San Francisco prepares for new seismic threats. Small tremors and moderate earthquakes that have occurred in the Bay Area and Southern California in recent years serve as reminders that the region remains highly vulnerable. Scientists warn that a major earthquake along the Hayward Fault or San Andreas Fault could occur in the near future, making the lessons learned from past disasters even more critical. The increased use of early warning systems, such as the Shake Alert system, demonstrates how technology has evolved to reduce casualties and damage. Despite these advancements, the risks remain high, and seismic preparedness is an ongoing challenge. Many older buildings that have not yet been retrofitted pose dangers, particularly in densely populated neighborhoods. Additionally, as the population of the Bay Area continues to grow, the potential impact of a major earthquake increases. Experts emphasize the importance of emergency preparedness, urging residents to have earthquake survival kits, secure heavy furniture, and develop family safety plans. The past earthquakes of San Francisco have left a lasting legacy, shaping the city's approach to earthquake resilience. The destruction caused by the 1906 and 1989 earthquakes prompted major advancements in building regulations, infrastructure safety, and public awareness. As recent earthquakes remind residents of the region's seismic vulnerability, ongoing efforts to reinforce structures, improve warning systems, and educate the public remain crucial. The lessons of the past continue to inform and guide efforts to minimize damage and protect lives when the next major earthquake strikes. The science behind. San Francisco and the broader Bay Area are among the most seismically active regions in the world, sitting atop a complex network of faults that make earthquakes a frequent occurrence. The science behind recent earthquakes in the region is rooted in the movement of the Earth's tectonic plates, stress accumulation along fault lines, and ongoing geological shifts that drive seismic activity. Understanding the forces behind these tremors is crucial for both predicting future quakes and developing effective preparedness measures. The primary cause of earthquakes in San Francisco is the San Andreas Fault System, a major transform fault that marks the boundary between the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate. This fault runs through California and is responsible for some of the largest earthquakes in the state's history, including the 1906 San Francisco earthquake and the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake. The movement along the San Andreas Fault is strike slip, meaning the two tectonic plates slide past each other horizontally. However, the movement is not smooth. Stress builds up over time as the plates grind against each other, and when that stress is suddenly released, an earthquake occurs. Recent earthquakes in San Francisco and the surrounding Bay Area have been linked to activity along several faults, including the Hayward Fault, Rogers Creek Fault, and Calaveras Fault. The Hayward Fault, in particular, is considered one of the most dangerous faults in the US because it is locked and accumulating stress, making it ripe for a major rupture in the near future. Scientists predict that a magnitude 6.7 or larger earthquake could strike the region within the next few decades, based on the patterns of past seismic activity. Modern earthquake science relies on a combination of seismology, geodesy, and computer modeling to study and predict seismic activity. Seismometers are deployed throughout the Bay Area to monitor ground motion, while GPS technology tracks tiny shifts in the Earth's crust caused by fault movement. Scientists also use historical data and paleoseismology, the study of prehistoric earthquakes, to estimate recurrence intervals and assess the likelihood of future quakes. These methods have helped experts refine their understanding of the seismic cycle and the probability of large earthquakes occurring. One of the most significant advancements in earthquake science is the development of early warning systems, such as Shake Alert, which can detect an earthquake within seconds and provide warnings to residents before the shaking reaches them. This system, operated by the U.S. Geological Survey, USGS, uses a network of sensors to quickly identify the location and magnitude of an earthquake, giving people critical seconds to take cover. While Shake Alert cannot predict earthquakes before they happen, it represents a major step forward in earthquake preparedness and response. Recent earthquakes in San Francisco serve as reminders of the region's ongoing seismic activity and the need for continued research and preparedness. While scientists have made great strides in understanding earthquake behavior, predicting the exact timing and magnitude of future quakes remains a challenge. However, by studying the movement of faults, monitoring seismic activity, and improving infrastructure resilience, researchers and engineers are working to mitigate the impact of the inevitable next big earthquake. The science behind recent earthquakes in San Francisco is deeply connected to the region's tectonic setting and fault system. The interaction of the Pacific and North American plates, combined with stress accumulation along major faults, continues to drive seismic activity in the Bay Area. Advances in seismology, GPS monitoring, and early warning systems are improving earthquake preparedness, but the risk of a major quake remains. As science progresses, ongoing research and infrastructure improvements will be key to ensuring that San Francisco remains resilient in the face of its seismic future. On Musk's bashing on San Francisco. Some people are now, of course, relating these happenings to Elon Musk. Musk has made several statements concerning San Francisco and earthquake-related topics. Approximately 2 months ago, Musk highlighted the dangers associated with the San Andreas Fault, describing California as sitting on a ticking time bomb. He emphasized the potential for significant seismic activity in the region. Elon Musk has never been shy about sharing his opinions, and when it comes to San Francisco, those opinions have often been harsh. Over the years, he has made multiple statements criticizing the city, its leadership, and its challenges, ranging from crime and homelessness to business regulations. While some might call it hatred, it seems more like deep frustration mixed with disappointment. One of Musk's biggest complaints is about San Francisco's crime and urban decline. He has described parts of the city as looking like a zombie apocalypse, blaming high crime rates, drug use, and homelessness for making downtown feel unsafe. He has also criticized the city's handling of businesses, especially with the number of stores and offices shutting down due to theft and lack of enforcement. Musk's tension with San Francisco became even more apparent when he took over Twitter, now X, in 2022. Despite keeping the company's headquarters in the city for a while, he openly criticized San Francisco's policies, saying they made it difficult for businesses to operate efficiently. In 2024, he finally decided to move X's headquarters to Austin, Texas, one of his favorite cities for innovation and business. Beyond crime and business concerns, Musk has also warned about the dangers of San Francisco's location on the San Andreas Fault. He has referred to California as a ticking time bomb, reminding people that a major earthquake is always a risk. Though this might not be a direct attack on the city itself, it does add to his overall negative outlook on San Francisco. Despite all his criticisms, Musk still has some ties to the Bay Area. Tesla's factory in Fremont continues to operate, and SpaceX maintains some presence in California. However, his preference for Texas, especially Austin, is clear. Whether it's lower taxes, business-friendly policies, or just a change of scenery, Musk seems to believe that San Francisco's best days are behind it. While many people agree with his concerns, others feel he exaggerates the city's problems. Regardless of where you stand, one thing is certain: Musk's relationship with San Francisco is anything but warm, and he's not afraid to let the world know it. As for the recent quakes, Musk is no god to control natural phenomena that happens in whatever part of the US or the whole world. Is the city ready for the big one? San Francisco is one of the most beautiful and unique cities in the world, but it also sits right on top of one of the most dangerous fault lines, making it a ticking time bomb for another massive earthquake. Scientists have been warning for years that the big one is coming, but the real question is, how prepared is San Francisco when that day finally arrives? The city sits right between two major fault lines, the San Andreas Fault and the Hayward Fault. Scientists say there's a high chance, over 70%, that a magnitude 6.7 or higher earthquake will hit the Bay Area within the next few decades. That's a pretty scary thought, considering how densely packed the city is and how much of it still relies on older infrastructure. To be fair, the city has made some big improvements since the 1989 earthquake. Many buildings have been retrofitted to be more earthquake-resistant, especially high-rise office towers and newer developments. The Bay Bridge and several other key pieces of infrastructure have been reinforced or rebuilt. There's also an early warning system called Shake Alert, which can send alerts to people's phones a few seconds before an earthquake strikes, giving them just enough time to take cover. The government has also pushed for emergency preparedness programs, encouraging people to stock up on supplies, make family emergency plans, and secure their homes. But let's be honest, how many people actually do this? Some might, but a large portion of the population probably doesn't have an earthquake kit ready to go. Even with all the improvements, San Francisco is far from fully prepared. While many structures have been reinforced, thousands of older buildings, especially in historic neighborhoods, are still vulnerable. Some of the city's famous Victorian homes and older apartment buildings could collapse in a strong quake. And then there's the crisis in homelessness. San Francisco has a large homeless population, and many people live in makeshift shelters or tents that would offer zero protection during an earthquake. Emergency response plans don't seem to account for how to help these vulnerable communities. Parts of the city, like the Marina District, are built on loose, sandy soil. In a major quake, this land can literally turn to liquid, causing buildings to sink or collapse. This is exactly what happened in 1989, and despite some improvements, it remains a serious risk. While the Bay Bridge has been strengthened, some other roadways and public transit systems could take a major hit. If a big quake happens, getting in and out of the city will be a nightmare. The 1906 earthquake was devastating not just because of the shaking, but because of the fires that followed. If a big quake hits today and gas lines rupture, San Francisco could be dealing with massive fires on top of everything else. So, is the city ready and prepared? The short answer, kind of, but not really. The city has taken steps in the right direction, but there are still way too many weak points. Many buildings are still not up to modern earthquake standards. A large number of residents are unprepared, and emergency response efforts would likely be overwhelmed. If the big one struck tomorrow, San Francisco would definitely struggle to recover. So, what can people do? The best thing is to be personally prepared. That means having an emergency kit, knowing where to go during an earthquake, and making sure your home is as safe as possible. At the end of the day, the city can only do so much, Everyone needs to take responsibility for their own safety, because when the next major earthquake does hit, it won't wait for San Francisco to be 100% ready. That's the end of the video, but not the resilient city of San Francisco. Thanks for watching.